Great. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, panel. I'll apologize in advance. We are waiting for one more panelist who will join us, and they'll join in between. Fingers crossed. I want to kick us off by talking about the title, Advanced Drop-in Biofuels and Near-Term Decarbonisation, Accelerating the Transition for Mobility. It is an interesting topic because it's, in many ways, a really global topic. Airplanes go all around the world, ships go all around the world, but the solutions really lie locally. And production is really dependent on policy, local infrastructure, and I want to pick that apart a little bit as we go through this panel. This time last year was in San Francisco doing a similar panel, talking about Delta Airlines and some shippers. The answers would be completely different depending on what market we're in. So I'm excited to pull the parallels between the India market and the global market with all of your experience. I'm really glad to be joined today by my panel here. I've got Esther Bajet, President and CEO of Novonesis. Welcome. Charlotte Morton, OBE, the Chief Executive of the World Biogas Association. We have Mahesh Natarajan, SVP of Fuels and Low Carbon Technology at BP. And then I'll introduce Deepak if he arrives, but before that, we'll keep you guys guessing. Do you want to quickly run through a sort of elevator pitch of what you focus on, and then we'll jump into the questions? Does that sound good? Over to you, Esther.
So what our company does?
Yeah.
Thank you very much, and thank you for hosting us today. I have the privilege to work at Novonesis. We are a biotech company. We bring through science and technology and high scale-up capabilities, solutions inspired by nature, enzymes, microbes that transform the way that we produce and the goods that we consume. Our products, they touch every day more than 2 billion people. You don't feel us, you don't see us, but we are there making your life better. We're there on the yogurt that you ate in the morning, on the high protein, especially if it tastes and feels nice. We are there on the biofuels. When you fill up your car, we are there on the detergents that you use, washing your clothes at low temperature. We are there on enabling regenerative farms and replacing fossil pesticides and fertilizers. Every single point on how the goods are being produced or the healthier nutrients are being consumed, we are an enabler of that. We are 11,000 people. We have a market cap of $30 billion, and we're growing rapidly in a world which is need of new answers.
Charlotte.
Thank you, and lovely to be here too. So the World Biogas Association is the global organization that represents the biogas industry, as you can tell from our name. And fundamentally, our role is to facilitate the growth of the sector safely and professionally as fast as possible. The industry can recycle the 105 billion tons of organic waste that we humans generate every year, so, preventing 0.15 of a degree of temperature rise, but also releasing the equivalent of a third of today's fossil gas consumption, creating biofertilizers, and if we're successful, creating a very successful industry that could employ something like 10 to 15 million people. So win, 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 win on so many levels.
We like a win, 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 win on many levels. Yeah, there we go. Mahesh, over to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Great to be here in Goa. It's a nice event. So my name is Mahesh Natarajan, Senior Vice President of Fuels and Low Carbon Technology in BP. I had a group of 300 plus scientists, chemists, and engineers. And the role that my team plays in supporting BP is firstly technical service to our refining and fuels marketing business, and ensuring that they are safe, reliable, and we also help them extract gross margin, higher gross margin, etc. And in the refining context, in the context of the conversation we're having, we provide support to our refineries to do co-processing of fatty oils and greases and oils from non-food-based crop oil in our hydrotreaters and hydrocrackers to produce renewable diesel and SAF. Also, my accountability is technology development and innovation in the low carbon sector, which is primarily in bioenergy and hydrogen. Today, BP have a strong presence in Brazil, where we have around 11 sugar mills and sugar mills producing ethanol as well. So we produce around 1.7 million tons of ethanol in Brazil. And in the US, we've got a large biogas business from landfill waste, and we're one of the largest biogas producers in the US. So we provide support to those assets, but also looking ahead, we are driving innovation in future technologies for bioenergy.
Great. I want to start by comparing the market here in India to the market globally. And Mahesh, I'll start with you. That's right, BP, small company, small footprint. Biofuels, they're increasingly seen really as the most scalable near-term solution for decarbonizing aviation, shipping, heavy transport. Almost everything that's hard to electrify kind of gets this tag. From a global energy company's perspective, though, where does India stand? Where is it gaining ground compared to other majors? And where does the opportunity exist for it to do better?
Yeah, thanks, David. So maybe first start with, I agree that in terms of transition, sectors that can electrify will electrify. But in the meantime, bioenergy plays a really strong role in the transition because of its drop-in nature, because you don't have to change the supply chain already exists. So every year BP produces Energy Outlook, and in the Energy Outlook, in the current trajectory scenario, we see about 45% of increase in biofuels by 2035. And if you look ahead, today's bioenergy contribution to the ecosystem is around 5%. And if you look at 2050, 8% of the energy will be driven by bioenergy. So coming to India, specific to your question, I think India is has already taken a couple of giant strides in bioenergy. The first one is bioethanol, and the second one is biogas. So I'll talk a little bit about each. Bioethanol, Brazil, for many decades, has been blending ethanol in gasoline and have pioneered that technology. But India has leapfrogged several countries in that sort of ethanol blended program that India launched about 5 or 6 years back, with a target goal of 20% blending in gasoline. And actually, congratulations to the sector and the government. India has already achieved that target last year ahead of time. The other area, and actually looking at bioethanol in particular, India already produces blends 9 billion liters of bioethanol in gasoline, which is a staggering amount. And there is more available ethanol for blending into gasoline, but also in other routes, which I'll cover in a bit. Biogas is the other area. The countries launched the SATAT scheme, which is Sustainable Alternative towards affordable transportation. And through the SATAT scheme, the government has provided the floor for CBG blending and also kind of linked the CBG with the city gas distribution network with a target of 5% blending of CBG in city gas distribution by 2029. And I think through that scheme, we've seen in the last few years a number of biogas plants being built around the country. I think the last count I read was 133 biogas plants across the country, which produces around 900 million tons of gas. So it's really amazing kind of in terms of what the country has achieved. And actually want to kind of maybe touch on that. Having a strong, robust policy drives these investment decisions. And I think what the country has done in terms of setting those two policies has driven significant investment in those two areas in particular. Coming to your second part of the question, which is what more can be done. I think there's more opportunity to kind of scale up. Hi, Deepak.
Hi, no, welcome.
So looking ahead, I think there's, Charlotte will probably talk about this in her section. There's more opportunities in the biogas, looking at accessing different types of feedstock, different types of lignocellulosic feedstock, potentially even sewage sludge, etc., to produce biogas. And in the ethanol space, as the country and the globe sort of develops length in bioethanol, there's potential opportunities to look at converting ethanol to jet through the kind of alcohol to jet route, but also the country has opportunity to look at new feedstocks for ethanol, such as bamboo or other purpose-grown crop, which moves the country away from 1G ethanol to 2G ethanol.
Esther, what's your take on it? Because E20 has been a roaring success, right? We've congratulated correctly where we have a 20% blend. There's a biodiesel blend target too, which has been missed quite a lot, right? So for a win, there's also a challenge there. What do you think about India's position versus other large markets, and any learnings that can be taken?
I would like to echo the words from Mahesh on the need and the value of embracing the bridge from where we are to where we're going to go. And it's a continuity, what we're talking about. We, coming from a heritage of energy that was mainly based on fossil, on coal and fossil, we're moving to the future where we're going to have a much broader, rich portfolio of answers. Well, yes, green electricity is going to be part of that, but also not decarbonization, good carbons as part of the feedstocks of the future. And this is the bridge that India has done a beautiful job maneuvering on. I would like to echo again what has been said and give my respects and congratulations to the government of India, to of course Mr. Modi, on creating a framework, holistic framework that gives reliability and trust on the forecasted demand. Because that's what's driving the investments. The technology is ready. Today, the green economy, it's more than a 5 billion economy. The solutions based on sustainable and planet-responsible alternatives for energy, they are already competitive. You only need the investments. And for those investments to take place, you need reliable, predictable demand. And that's what India has done a really good job. And it has done it not only because it's good for the planet. It's for many, many, many reasons. The main one is geopolitical stability. It drives wealth, it drives jobs, it gives resilience from an energy point of view. Only by the ethanol that's been produced locally, India has saved more than $10 billion of importing refined gasoline. India has generated close to 2 million jobs, either directly on the bioethanol refineries or indirectly. India has created a consistent and more predictable income for the farmers, given also geopolitical stability. India has boosted holistically the economy by bringing the bioeconomy as part of the future. We in Novonesis, we're proud of being part of that journey. Through science, through technology, through our enzymes, through our yeast, we enable those solutions to be even more competitive. And this is a journey that has been taking place through many years. We are already there from as you so nicely mentioned, from a bioethanol point of view. There's untapped potential on biogas, untapped potential on biodiesel, untapped potential on feedstocks for SAF from biomass. For that, to your question, what do we need to make it happen? We need, again, the framework of registration that gives that predictability on demand. And then you need the commitment from companies to continue to invest there. We are 100% in. India is a strong country for us. 10% of our people, we have it here. And we are committing to continue to invest. Last week, I was in Davos, and we signed an MOU with the government of Mumbai of our commitment to continue to invest in India. And we see the potential to continue to unlocking and making those precious carbons from biomass into the feedstocks of the future, driving geopolitically, driving feedstocks based on homegrown solutions, driving local jobs, and then through science and technology making it happen. So I see a beautiful future ahead of us with just a matter of producing more, reliability of supply, and the competitiveness will continue to enhance.
Okay, we'll talk about that in a few moments' time, particularly reliability of supply and the technology being ready, because that's a huge challenge, and I think we maybe simplified that a little bit there, but we can pick it apart in a moment. I'm going to hop to Deepak. I'll introduce you first. Welcome to the panel. Deepak joins us from the Indian Sugar Bioenergy Manufacturers Association. Thank you very much for joining us. I have a question for you around taking advantage of the natural resources here in India. And Charlotte, I'll come to you after this as well. We heard from Esther a bit about the, let's say, the even energy independence that building out this sector gives India, and it's highly reliant, as we know, on the import of fossil fuels particularly. So developing anything like this helps its balance of trade significantly. But compared with many regions, India has got significant waste and agricultural residue resources, lots of natural resources. How can these be strengthened to be harnessed and built into a robust circular bioeconomy where logistics and aggregation can be smoothed out, let's say, or improved in order to take advantage of this opportunity?
Thank you. First of all, my sincere apologies for being slightly late. It was difficult to reach here. It took some effort to reach. I'm so sorry.
I think everybody relates to that.
Having said that, thank you for having me in this panel. My fellow panelists have really touched upon, and as an industry, we take pride in India achieving 20% blending, and today we have the capacity of meeting almost 32% blending. So the problem today is a plenty, and as I just heard, the reliability of the feedstock is something which is of a concern by many, including some oil marketing companies in the country. But as an industry, as an investor, we assure that we have plenty, and the industry is continuously working on making sure that we have more surplus every year. For example, I come from sugar industry. Sugar industry for almost last 10 years have been in the surplus. So we only divert what is left after consuming it. So that means we are not getting into the debate of food versus fuel at all. And as the association, as the industry, we have been working on how we can enhance the productivity, the yield, and the recovery. So, because we have farmers who are small landowners in the country. We have almost more than 50 million farmers in the country who are involved in this. And they're small farmers, small landowners. We don't expect that the area will go up, but we expect that the same area they'll be able to produce more. So we are introducing technologies, for example, genotyping, phenotyping, how we can really work on new varieties, which will give more income to the farmer. They will be able to produce more and ensure the reliability of the supply of both bioethanol as well as the advanced biofuel. Having said that, your question is specifically on the agro-bio-waste. See, India, while many countries are struggling what to do with the bio-waste, for example, agro-waste, we have the capability, and we have been showing in various cities that we have the experience of handling large amount of agro-waste. So, for example, in the sugar industry alone, see how we are basically managing our bagasse, which is the waste, press mud, and molasses. 10, 15 years back, when we didn't have the bioethanol policy, the molasses were actually thrown. So today we have monetized it. So we know how basically we can do it. But if we get into other feedstock, for example, rice straw, and we are basically, there is already a Indian Oil, which is an OMC, has a plant here near Delhi, which is basically using rice husk into making the second generation ethanol. The problem is still of aggregation. So like what sugar industry has done, we are expecting that the government will come out with certain policies, how we can really monetize our waste, do a complete sorting, aggregation, and handling and logistics. But I believe we have the experience in doing it. And for example, we are using press mud for CBG plants. Now we have almost 30, 35 CBG plants based on press mud. We are expecting that by this year end, we will another have 50, 60 more CBG plants on press mud. So I believe we are on the right track. What we need is a proper policy guidance. For example, CBG has a problem of the FOLM, which is the liquid fertilizer. How we really are handling that. if we have the policy, the technology is there, the investment is ensured, but if we have the policy and everything comes together, I believe the agro waste could also be used for making advanced biofuel. So we are on the right track.
Yeah. Did you have a comment to?
It was maybe building on the food versus fuel and echoing and building up on what has been said. It's not food versus fuel. It's feed and fuel. It's the combination what science and technology and good investments lead for. Today, thanks to the investments on operations and the new capacity design and the yeast and the enzymes that we design, farmers, and I'm talking now, for example, the farmers in US, they are, and the growing market here also in India, they enable 30% of their value, not only from the ethanol, it is from DDGs, from fiber that thanks to the innovations and technology, it has enhanced significantly the digestibility and the nutritional value for the cattle. You can replace 45% of the corn that the cattle use with those DDGs without compromising nutritional value.
So it's just a yield play.
What I'm saying it is, you take biomass, you get fuel, and you get DDGs that they are feed. So it is not food versus fuel. It is fuel and feed simultaneously. And that's only possible today with the advancements of technology that we have made. And this happened because, again, the predictability of the revenue. It's building exactly on what you have been said. The new strains, rice, bamboo, new molecules that will be the building blocks for SAF, they will happen. We can make them. You just need predictability and then be able to make those investments to get those returns.
Yep.
How does it sound, what I'm saying?
Sounds great. Predictability.
Yeah.
In 2026,
Absolutely,
predictability, I think everybody would say yes to that, yeah.
And trust. It's predictability and trust. You also have to make a step ahead from a company to say, yes, I believe in it, and we're committed, and we're going to make that happen. Here, it's not only from the governments, it's also the ecosystems among farmers, companies, oil companies, associations, that we have a responsibility here to create that framework to move it bolder. I'm very eager to hear your thoughts on what can we do to make it happen faster.
Yeah. Charlotte, we'll go to you, because Deepak mentioned government policy around aggregation, for example, and clear policy and predictability being important steps to enabling and unlocking this potential. You look at markets all over the world. What is an example of a good policy in your eyes that maybe India could learn from, and one that it could potentially export to unlock this?
Well, I think the interesting thing about biogas is that you can't really focus just on one policy because you're talking about a circular economy situation where the organic wastes that are the prime feedstock are being produced by and controlled by different participants. So Deepak, you've just talked about the 15,000 farmers across India. Then there's municipal solid waste that will be managed by the cities, sewage sludge, industrial food and drink processing wastes. So all of these are in different places for a start. So just ensuring that there are policies in place that will ensure that those feedstocks can be aggregated and made available easily and affordably to biogas producers is quite important. Similarly, you need the infrastructure to ensure that the plants can be built, and then of course you need the infrastructure to ensure that the energy can be taken off and either injected into the gas grid, or where the gas grid doesn't exist, then it needs to be put into production of CBG and to a transport network, or indeed back into an industrial heavy user, for example. So I think the best way to achieve this is to ensure that there is coordination of all of those policies, and that to achieve successful coordination of all of those policies, it does require involving all of the relevant government departments and all of the relevant stakeholders, many of whom are not actually used to talking to each other. You know, farmers are not typically used to talking to biogas producers, gas grid operators, waste management companies, and there are a very large number of government departments. I think in India we're talking upwards of 8 government departments. Government departments in any country have a very good reputation of not talking to each other and not liaising with each other. So it is absolutely vital to find a mechanism to bring those government departments together and bringing all of the stakeholders together to really understand what's going to be involved in creating that enabling environment that will then allow the industry to invest. There is no shortage of investment. It is absolutely everybody understands how to put projects together. There are no technology issues. We've been anaerobically digesting organic material commercially for decades. So yes, the feedstocks here in India may be slightly different and there may need to be some adaptations. This is not rocket science. This is not the issue. It is absolutely the coordination of the policies that are required. What is really excellent here in India is the fact that the political will and ambition is there. So when I first came to India Energy Week in Bengaluru, Prime Minister Modi stood up and made that commitment to build 5,000 large-scale CBG plants by, I think it was probably about now, so the ambition hasn't been achieved, but it is there. We're behind on delivering that ambition for the reasons that I've outlined. Why do you think? Because policies today across India are very fragmented. There are state policies, national policies. Together, they don't all add up to allow developers to put projects together that can meet that financial close. And so that's why it's so necessary to have a coordinated effort to bring everything together. That's why we've been suggesting that there should be a national biogas mission and a biogas action plan developed underneath that. The government succeeded before in solar and green hydrogen, for example, doing exactly the same. Yeah. So,
I mean, a patchwork of policies is not unique to India, right? If you look at the US, you've got federal and state level, EU, very similar, even in the UK between the different countries. Is there a good example of where this has worked in another market?
Well, I can pick up the UK. Obviously, I happen to be from the UK, but I was involved in the development of the anaerobic digestion strategy and action plan about 10 years ago in the UK, and it did precisely as I suggested. There was a government commitment to facilitating a huge increase in energy from waste through anaerobic digestion, which is quite unusual for politicians to be able to talk about anaerobic digestion in that way. But as a result of that, there had then to be a strategy to deliver that increase. And they did involve all the government departments, they did involve all stakeholders. It was challenging. But as a result, the industry then started to take off exponentially. So it was hugely successful. So yes, there is that example. And I think it's a really positive example to look at because it demonstrates that it can be done. It is really, we do know how to do it. It is really all about bringing those stakeholders together and creating the plan.
Yeah, I guess making it bankable for an investor to go in and build out the plant. That I suppose the difficulty for the industry in general is it's so reliant on policy that depending on the structure of the country, let's say it's a 4-year term or a 5-year term, if the policy changes, the economics of your project completely change after a regime or a company or a party goes through, right? So it becomes quite difficult to think about how do you even do the math behind that, right? I do want to think about the future a little bit. We talked about markets that exist today. Every time I see an economic model whether it's a BP outlook, a BNEF outlook, every industry turns to biofuels to the extent that I think we'd have to plant all around the world in order to meet this end use. So I don't think the sort of market demand is the issue. It's more about where it's best supplied, how you supply it, what industry takes precedent, for example, are there alternatives and the merit order of where it goes. I want to talk a little bit about global markets and how India can continue to deliver near-term CO2 reductions today while getting ready for that next generation of renewable or clean fuels, clean molecules, whatever we want to call them. Charlotte, I might start with you on this one, and Deepak, we'll jump to you afterwards, because both on the sugarcane side, both on the biomethane side, they are kind of tapped for very many different end uses, and perhaps that's, I don't know if that's good or bad, it could be both really, I guess.
Well, you're correct. It's a very interesting question, and so I think there's two or three things to bear in mind. One, that we should remember that we're talking about molecules, and molecules that can decarbonize particularly difficult sectors. So we can only ever produce a finite quantity. That quantity will get more and more, but it still is a finite quantity. It can't decarbonize everything. So it needs to be prioritized for those end use cases that it is the only solution for. So, for example, in the UK, we've moved away from using biogas to generate on-site electricity, and unless you can find a use for the heat, and it's been decarbonising heat and transport, because long-distance transport, because there are no other solutions. So focusing on solutions where electrification isn't going to work. Today, there's quite a lot of interest from the maritime sector and SAF. That's where it needs to be sort of ultimately prioritized. Pricing will play a part. And so to answer your point about sort of, I suppose, the economics of it and policy changes, one of the things that we've been looking at for some time is how sort of what can be done to ensure that the industry is not dependent on subsidies, for example, because our view is that this is really just a question of balancing the level playing field, and from a carbon pricing point of view, if carbon pricing and there was a mechanism to reward project developers for the decarbonisation they're achieving, then there would be no issue attracting finance, because when we're talking about recycling organic waste and financially rewarding the prevention of methane emissions that those organic wastes will otherwise be achieving, then, and given the differential between the impact of methane emissions versus CO2 emissions 86 times, the market should be pricing that in significantly. So if we can ensure that the carbon markets and biomethane certificates have the right carbon intensity number on them, then that will get the industry off subsidy, and ultimately I'm sure that will then price in which sectors are most want biomethane or bioenergy.
It's a hard one, right? Because when you have to assume a carbon market works, which yes and no depending on the day, I suppose, in the industry, and then regionally it's very fragmented too. Deepak, everybody has a plan for sugarcane, whether it's ethanol on the road or alcohol to jet in the sky. How do you prepare for tomorrow when making sure that you're still executing on what's needed today to decarbonize here in the market in India?
Yeah, thank you. I'm happy that we are touching on almost all aspects of biofuel, including advanced biofuel. Specifically on the SAF, there is absolutely no issues in the technology preparedness. I believe technologies are there. For example, why bioethanol program succeeded? See, ultimately investors need enabling environment. And why it succeeded? Because there was a guaranteed offtake by the policymakers. There has to be a guaranteed offtake. The investor has to be certain that the offtake will not vanish midway. That is number one. Like it has happened in some of the countries. We have seen some of the countries rolling back on some of the ethanol programs. I don't want to name those countries.
You can name the countries.
Yeah. Let's avoid that. Then, for example, how, India is a very regulated market. The center of the entire program in terms of biofuel is our farmer. It's the government who decides how much is the industry going to pay to the farmer. For example, we have in sugarcane, we have something called FRP, which is a fair and remunerative price, which the government decides on year-to-year basis based on the cost of crop and plantation. And it has to go up every year. So we can't really compare the cost of our product, which is basically, for example, bioethanol or SAF, with any other international market because we are completely regulated. So our raw material is something which the government regulates. So the industry also expects that the product is also priced in such a way that it takes care of the raw material cost. And that is why government also decides on the offtake pricing. So demand creation, offtake pricing, and every ministry, every government, every department coming together, state as well as central, and then only there is an investor's confidence. And that is how the entire bioethanol program has succeeded in India. Similarly, we are now looking at a national SAF roadmap. And we are very certain that the ministry is going to come out with the SAF roadmap.
Next year, 1%
in terms
or
of
so, right?
decarbonization of our aviation sector. I believe Corsia already has a mandate. Government has, international airlines have already started. In the sugarcane industry alone, we have recently conducted a carbon emission, what is the kind of carbon emission index for example, 1G ethanol and leading to SAF. Because almost 11 feedstocks are qualified for SAF. But the aggregation for other feedstock is a very big problem in the country. For example, cooking oil, it is not taking off. It could perhaps suffice by 1% blending, 2% blending. But if you want to go ahead to 5%, 10% blending, you will have to get into an alcohol to jet. We already have a surplus capacity of ethanol. So that is something, a low-hanging fruit. Investors are ready. So as I was just mentioning, the carbon emission index of sugarcane ethanol 1G is coming to around 14 to 16 gram of CO2 per megajoule, which is the lowest in the world. The Brazil sugarcane itself is almost 22 to 24 gram CO2 per megajoule. Corn is almost 60 to 65, US corn. So for economies who are basically, for example, Europe, perhaps prefer to have more SAF, which accounts for more carbon credits. So we are perhaps going in a direction where the carbon accounting principles are set in. We still have the mandatory and voluntary markets which are still working out. We still have, we're not qualifying. Japan has signed a JCM. We've already signed a bilateral agreement on carbon credits. But the technology is ready. We are hoping that we will be able to present our numbers to Corsia very soon. And once this is approved by Corsia, then we are ready to perhaps get into the export market also. And ultimately, what I said, the focus is on our farmer. So more value we realize, it is passed on to the farmer. And as the government, for example, led by our Honorable Prime Minister, the main focus itself is how we can really enhance the income of farmer. And specifically also in this geopolitical environment, it's best to rely on own fuel, own food, and everything our own. So I think we are on the right path. Industry is coming forward in contributing in terms of SAF. Similarly on second generation ethanol, similarly on other feedstocks, we are ready to get into the second phase of unleashing our biofuel policy.
Yeah. Mahesh, I'll go to you and talk about, you have a global view at BP, and BP has its finger in many pies when it comes to renewable fuels. I do want to pick on a point that both Deepak and Esther have made around the technology being ready and available. And the technology might be there, but it's not scaling, and we're not seeing large amounts. If we think of alcohol to jet, for example, Gevo comes to mind, LanzaJet, but they're very tiny in comparisons to co-processing in a refinery, for example, the HEFA process through a refinery. They're sort of safe, lower cost bets, so to speak. So yes, these things are there in theory, but they're not accelerating in any way fast enough to keep up with the new mandates and the guaranteed demand. And one of the questions every time I go to speak to people is, what's give? Is there not enough supply? Is there not enough demand? And a producer will say there's not enough demand, and a user will say there's not enough supply. And I think somebody here must be like looking at this the wrong way.
You take it first.
over to you, Mahesh. What do you see?
No, thanks for the question. I think maybe sort of set the scene. We believe multiple technologies and multiple feedstock will be required to deliver the demand for the future for bioenergy based on whether it's BNF outlook or BP outlook. And I think, in terms of the scale up, let's take kind of what's happening in the short term, near term currently, right? And if I take one product at a time, for renewable diesel, we talked about biogas and bioethanol, so I'm not going to touch that again. For biodiesel or renewable diesel, as you said, co-processing and HEFA processing is really leveraging. And if you kind of go back 10 years, it started in Europe and in the US with processing of waste oils, so used cooking oil and tallow. But there is only so much chips people can eat, and there's only 500,000 barrels per day of accessible waste oils available. And we already do quite a lot of co-processing in our refineries, again, because it's a drop-in feedstock to our existing process. We can put that into our hydrotreaters and the hydrocrackers after pre-treatment, and you get renewable diesel SAF at the back end of it. But as I said, there's limited feedstock available. So what we are doing is we are accessing alternative feedstock, novel feedstocks. We've got a couple of partnerships, one with New Farm to access carinata seed, which is a cover crop grown in the fallow season. So it doesn't impact your sort of cash crop. So you grow the carinata seed, take the seed, crush it, and that becomes feedstock for the refinery. We also created a joint venture with Corriteva, and we call it ETLES, which is again built to access novel feedstock for co-processing and HEFA. Why I mentioned those is diversification is really important. Leveraging the capital that's already been deployed is important, and we think about leveraging our existing refineries, leveraging our existing hydrocracker, hydrotreaters footprint to leverage kind of processing these waste oils or novel feedstock to produce renewable diesel or SAF. But that only goes as far, right? And then you need to look beyond that to novel technologies in the future, advanced technologies in the future to scale up bioenergy. We talked about 2G ethanol for gasoline. We've talked about biogas and accessing waste feedstock, but also purpose-grown feedstock as well to produce biogas from lignocellulosic feedstock. And looking at SAF, there are a number of different options that are available. One is alcohol to jet, and I think alcohol to jet is kind of quite interesting because there's significant amount of ethanol blending in the US, significant amount of ethanol blending in Brazil. Now in India, we've got 20% ethanol blending as well. And we believe that the light-duty transport sector will electrify as time passes. And as that happens, there will be length available in terms of supply of ethanol in the market. And there's an opportunity then to take that and convert it into jet for sustainable aviation fuels. And if you look further down the line, I think as green hydrogen scales up, there is opportunity to take CO2 from industrial waste or direct air capture, combine it with hydrogen, and produce e-fuels. But those are still quite expensive. And so in terms of investment, the industry will look at what is the most cost-effective means to produce renewable diesel or bioethanol or sustainable aviation fuels. And over time, as technology develops and we invest in innovation, the total cost of ownership will reduce, and that'll kind of make it more economic for investments in the future.
That's true.
Those are exactly the right words, over time. We have a responsibility to bring a narrative here and demystify some of these myths that they are not true anymore. It's not food versus fuel, it's feed and fuel, competitively and simultaneously. The green economy, it's $5 billion, and 50% of the CO2 emissions could be removed by solutions that they are already competitive. Still 50% they are not competitive yet. But 50% are already competitive. And we have the responsibility to talk about the ones that they are competitive. Bioethanol to replace gasoline, it is competitive. In US, there is a mandate of 10%. There is more than 10% in the gasoline because it is competitive to gasoline today. It was not 15 years ago. It is today. And I'm inviting all of us to repeat that and to just move fast forward into the future of the ones that they are not competitive. Biomass into ethanol, it's not competitive yet, but it will be. SIF, it's not competitive yet, but it will be. And why will it be? Just because we've done it in the past, and we are not done on the potential on technology. Only from an enzymes and biological perspective, if you look at the yield efficiency per cost, that ratio has changed 30 times in the last 20 years. If you look at the cost of batteries, they have reduced 90% in the last 10 years. Just fast forward 10 years down the road, and you will see that the ones that they are not competitive now, they will be. And the only thing you need, it's time. Time and the framework, the beautiful framework, like the one that countries like India doing, on step by step, bringing predictability, bringing the loop, closing many different entities that maybe they don't talk naturally in the past before, making that dial in place and moving forward to that demand, to that future. Because science is ready, solutions are there, they are competitive, and the demand is there. We need more energy than the one that we can supply today. And we will see that future that you were talking before, that bio-based carbons are going to be a stronger enabler of the future. We're also going to have decarbonization. We're also going to have green electricity. We're also going to have nuclear. There's many. It's optionality. We, Novonesis, we're going to make the bioeconomy competitive, stronger, and we're going to continue to work with governments to make it happen.
So just give it time.
Trust and explain it. The narrative that it's here, it's real, it's competitive. We have to stop talking about the places that it's not working yet and replace bolder and stronger where it is competitive. It is a reality. The solutions of the future, they are already competitive to the fossils of the past. Then we are replacing an ecosystem and we're growing bolder. We're growing twice as fast, the green revenues, as the revenues of the past.
And investment as well, yeah.
Investment in tech. So just take these data points and you close your eyes and you'll see when you're going to be 10 years down the road. And please explain it. We don't have to apologize. It's
a shame nobody here works for a media agency that could, share this knowledge. We have run out of time. I have got many more questions I could have asked you guys, so I apologize for that. But thank you very much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Super pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Super pleasure.